Welcome to KKonnections On Air, a dynamic podcast hosted by Kearn Cherry, designed to empower listeners with actionable insights and wisdom from leaders, innovators, and changemakers across the globe. Each episode features a unique blend of interviews and speaker takeover segments, providing in-depth expertise on topics such as business, networking, branding, faith, empowerment, and personal growth, just to name a few. With over 200 plus speakers featured from Kearn's events, KKonnections On Air brings you powerful voices and thought-provoking discussions that inspire personal and professional transformation. Whether you're looking to elevate your career, build your brand, or deepen your faith, this podcast delivers valuable takeaways to help you unlock new opportunities and build a lasting legacy. Welcome to the first episode of KKonnections On Air. In this episode, Kearn welcomes Dr. George C. Fraser, a world-renowned networking expert and the CEO of Fraser Net, Inc. With over 30 years of experience leading a global movement for economic empowerment, Dr. Fraser is recognized for his unparalleled knowledge in building strong, meaningful networks. Often referred to as Black America's #1 networker, Dr. Fraser shares invaluable insights on how to grow connections and leave a lasting legacy. This is an episode not to be missed.
A house divided among itself cannot stand. That's Bible. Number 2, old keys will not open new doors. That could be a whole sermon. If there's a smart pastor on this call, write that down and make a sermon out of that one. Old keys cannot open new doors. We've got to change or be changed. I'll unpack that shortly. And finally, in case no one told you, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say it with love. Ain't nobody saving Black people but Black people. It's been 400 years, and we ain't saved. Who in the hell are we waiting for? We're waiting for us. And I want to say the next thing and still be loved. I have found the enemy. And the enemy is us. Not all of us. Just too many of us. We are all drinking from wells that we did not dig, brothers and sisters. We are all standing on the shoulders of giants. A 250-year fight just so that we could be free from 1619 to 1864. 250 years. A 100-year fight for civil rights, voting rights, and public access from 1864 to 1964. 350 years. And we must never, ever, 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 ever forget that. And we must act like we will never forget that. So the question I'm going to ask you tonight, I want you to think about is, are we worthy of that legacy? And if you feel that we are worthy of this 350-year legacy, the deeper question is, what then will be your legacy? Now, I'm a boomer, I'm 77. And our legacy is civil rights, voting rights, and public access. We were alongside of Dr. King. That was our era. What will be generation X, Y, Z, and generation Alpha's legacy? We cannot really allow our legacies to end with the civil rights struggle. So what will be the younger folks' legacy? And I am praying and hoping that it will be economics. It will be the closing of the income and wealth gap between us and them. I'm hoping that the new 21st century mantra for our people is that economics is the new Black power. Again, we cannot allow our legacy to end with the civil rights struggle. 1962, I was running the streets of New York, born and raised in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. I was in Harlem, 125th Street, right down from the Apollo. And I saw this young brother standing on the corner talking, and there was a crowd around him. And I was curious. I walked over, and he said something so powerful. He planted seeds in my subconscious mind so powerful that it became the North Star of my life. The young man's name was Stokely Carmichael. He later changed his name to Kwame Ture. He married the great South African singer Miriam Makeba. Here's what Stokely Carmichael spoke into the small crowd that was standing around him. He said, no Black person in this country can make any advancement based on his or her talent or worth. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, your advancement and success does not belong to you. It belongs to the people. Thus, if you do not use your success or advancement for the benefit of your people, it is a betrayal of the people who shed their blood for you. I have conducted and have comported my life with such advice. The great Toni Morrison, Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize winning Toni Morrison said it a little bit differently. She said, if you are free, you need to free somebody else. And if you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. Dr. John Henrik Clark, the African-centered scholar from Harlem, the mentor to Malcolm X, said it most succinctly. He said, take what you do best and do it for your people. Economics must become the new Black power. If you know something, teach something. I was doing some reading the other day. I'm in my office, in an office building, not in my home. And you see what's behind me, right? It's my little library. The 2,500 books right behind me. This is not a green screen. That's my little library in my office. There's 2,500 here, and there are 15,000 in my home. My wife told me if I bring any more books home, we would not have a place to sleep. Read. This is what I'm saying to you. Read. Read. There's an old saying, you've heard it a million times. You want to hide something from a Black man, put it in a book. If we are going to succeed, we must be committed to personal growth and development, constant never-ending improvement, and lifelong learning. At 77, I am still learning. Every time I have a conversation, I learn, because I'm also a good listener. Right? What's the old saying? God gave you one mouth and two ears, therefore you should speak less than you listen. Or the way I would say it is speak with your ears and listen with your mouth. What does that mean, Dr. Fraser? It means that whatever comes out of your mouth should be a reflection, an accurate reflection of what you just heard. So as I was reading, there was a new study put out by the U.S. Census Bureau. Every 5 years, the U.S. Census Bureau does a comprehensive study on minority business development by cultural group. And I've been following these studies for a number of years. I compared what I read in the 2022 study to what I read in the 2010 study. In 2010, according to the US Census Bureau, there were 2,500,000 Black, 2,600,000, I'm sorry, let's get it right, 2,600,000 Black-owned businesses in America. 2,600,000 Black-owned businesses in America. About 35% growth over the previous 5-year reporting period. Doing about $135 billion a year. And that growth was up. That was now the 2010 study. That's where we were in 2010. 2.6 million businesses doing about 135 billion. Now, the downside of that number, because that's a big number, the largest number of businesses we've ever had, is only 111,000 of those businesses employed anybody. And those businesses that were employing people were averaging about $1.3 million a year in annual revenue. So what does that mean, Dr. Fraser? It means that 2.5 million, 2.5 of the 2.6 million of us were sole proprietors. And the average annual income of those sole proprietors was $18,700 a year, which is below the poverty line. The upside of that is that we were seeding businesses. A lot more brothers and sisters were thinking about entrepreneurship. So they were starting businesses, part-time, quarter-time, full-time. Now, fast forward a decade, the one that I just read. We went from 2.6 million Black-owned businesses a decade ago to now 141,000 Black-owned businesses. That means in 10 years, we lost 2,450,000 of our businesses. In 10 years, 2,400,000 plus of the 4.6 million there was 10 years ago are gone. Now, we know that COVID had something to do with that. But remember now, the overwhelming majority of those businesses were already struggling at $18,700 a year, below the poverty line. So they were just hanging on. And 2 years of no business with the pandemic, that wiped us out. So we now have 141,000 businesses, no longer 2.6 million Black-owned businesses, but those 141,000 businesses are doing 141 billion. Now remember, with 2.6 million, we were doing 135 billion. Now we're down to 141,000, but we're doing 141 billion dollars annually in business. So that means that those businesses that were strong enough to survive, who were well connected, who understood and managed their business properly, scaled their businesses, employed other people, most of them survived. Now, you want to compare that to other minority groups? Hispanics have 376,000 businesses today, doing $472 billion, 3 times more than we're doing. And we came over here on the Mayflower. And Asians, oh, let's not talk about Asians. Asians? Oh, they're at 612,000 businesses doing $841 billion. And they solved their own unemployment problem, opening small Asian restaurants in our neighborhood. Now, you can't hate on them for that. The stores were vacant. Then you know that Asians employ what? Asians employ Asians. God bless them. In fact, if you go into an Asian restaurant or a Chinese restaurant and there are four brothers waiting on you, leave. That ain't a real Asian restaurant. Because Asians do not employ Black people, they employ their own people. And Asians recycle their dollars back into their own community. So we have a lot of catching up to do. Now, why are we failing? There are a whole number of reasons. I don't have enough time to unpack every single reason. So basically, I'm going to talk to you about what I think is the critical point. It's a critical point as it relates to business development, and it really is the critical point as it relates to building wealth. I used to call it the power of effective networking. I've modified that. I think, a better name. I call it the power of the human connection. The power of the human connection. Introduce me to your five closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know and as they go, so go you. Another way to say that, write this down, is called the power of proximity. The power of proximity. You ought to surround yourself with people who will make you better. Surround yourself with people who will make you better. There are three kinds of networks you're going to have to work on throughout your entire life: your personal, your operational, and your strategic network. You're really going to have to spend somewhere between 40 and 45% of your time on earth cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships along these three categories: personal. These are your close personal friendship. These are your family. These are the people you know and love. These are the people that hug you, that lift you up. Let's call that your network at home. Then there's your operational network. These are the people that platoon in and out of your life to help you to get specific tasks done in life. There are very few people. I'm 77. There might be two people that are still in my life that have been with me from the beginning of my life. These people platoon in and out of your life. They help you to get specific assignments and tasks done, and you help them. That's your operational network. You're going to work on that all of your life, just as you're going to work on your personal relationships all of your life, your network at home. So let's call your operational network your network at work. And then the third and final network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people who are where you want to be. These are the people that can ultimately end up being your coach and your mentor and all those kinds of things. That's what you, by the way, will find at the Power Networking Conference. That fulfills the concept of proximity. Movers, shakers, decision makers, the baddest brothers and sisters on the planet in their subject matter expertise. Now, let me back up for a second. If the time goes fast. Genesis 1:31 tells us this. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, he said, it was good. Genesis 1:31. There's only one time in God's life, let's call it that, that's metaphorically speaking, only one time God was dissatisfied with his own damn work. And that's in Genesis 2:18. Read it. And the Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. Therefore, I will make him a helper comparable to him. He put Adam to sleep, took two of his ribs, and made women. God was not happy with Adam hanging out by himself. There is a biblical declaration, you might be familiar with it, on the human connection. It is a direct quote from Jesus Christ. You know, there are 800,000 words in the Bible, only 1,200 of those words are direct quotes from Jesus Christ. It's John 5:30. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now, this was Jesus, the Son of God, and he couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum. So, what's up with you? Why would you think you could do anything significant, anything worth talking about on your own by yourself in a vacuum? It is impossible. We are not designed that way. God's love of connection is clear. And he gave us two ways to ensure connection: sex and money. Let me unpack that for you. It won't take long. What is the motivation for sex? Ecstasy. Nothing like it. But that's not the goal of sex. The goal of sex is what? Procreation. So that we can produce more of God's children to serve us and for us to serve. Brilliant. Now, money. How do you earn money? Serving. The more skills you have, the better you're able to serve and the more money you make. If you're only making $10 an hour, you're only worth $10 an hour. The marketplace determines your value. So you have to constantly improve to increase your value so that you could add and bring that value to your customer through a product or service. And then when you satisfy your customer through service, you get certificates of appreciation. A lot of people would call that money. You are appreciated for the services you gave to other people and you get paid for it. And by the way, the more people you serve well, the more money you earn. It's not complicated. Beyonce has this skill, this talent. She started as a kid, wonderful voice, and she's a great show woman, and right, and she goes on a tour, and she goes to a stadium, and 40,000 people show up, and she gets $100 from each. Serving a lot of people, makes a lot of money. So Malcolm Gladwell said, Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors. You know who he is. If you don't know who he is, look him up, Google him. He said that the most common attribute of the rich are friends, contacts, and connections. Rich people have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. And you can deduce from that. I understand the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is not complicated. God doesn't make anything complicated because he needs for everybody to understand it. You make things complicated. We make things complicated so that we don't have to do it. So the more complicated we make something, the more reasons we have for not doing it. We make things complicated to control power. The more complicated I can make something, the less you understand it, the more power I have over you. So I'm going to uncomplicate the purpose of life. So you'll never be able to unhear this. And you'll never be able to say to anyone else for the rest of your life, you don't know why God put you here. I'm going to give you the meta version. The purpose of life is to love, to give, to serve, and to add the highest value to somebody or something every minute of every day. That is the purpose of life. Now, your specific purpose is your journey. But once you find your specific purpose, because God has put each of us here with a unique purpose in mind, there's a job that He's assigned only you to do. And if you do not do it, it will not get done in the universe. And we are counting on you to find out why God put you here, so you could do the best work of your life. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that the measure of your wealth is other people. There's an old saying in the networking world, oh, it's not what you know, but who you know. You've heard that, right? Been around a long, long time. But that's only half of it. Here's the other half. It's not what you know and who you know, but it's who knows you and what is it that they know about you. You see, you can know 500 really important people, but if they all think you're an asshole, you got real problems. What do you know? What do you really bring to the table of life? How do you really add value? Who do you know? How much time have you spent on getting to know your brothers and sisters, connecting at every level of life? Let me give you a little tip. If you want to meet important people, you have to be where important people are. They ain't coming to your ass. You have to go to them. And when you go to them, you got to find a way to serve them, not beg them. Don't ask them, don't meet Colin Powell, the late Colin Powell. I happen to mention his name because it was a goal to meet Colin Powell and Earl Graves. And those are all stories. I don't have enough time to tell you those stories. But you don't meet somebody really important and powerful and ask them, "Oh, can you donate $1,000 to my, my fund?" No, you find a way to serve them. That's the first thing you do with powerful people. All you want to do is to be in their service, to touch the hem of their cloth, and to begin to build that relationship. The measure of your wealth is other people. It's one human being serving another human being. And without other people to serve, you and you them, you have nothing. Now think about that. You have nothing without other people to serve and them to serve you. You have zero. Now, I call the human connection customer service. And for me, customer service is close to worship service. I love serving. I love promising a lot and delivering more. And I also inherently know, and I'm trying to teach you, that many is always smarter than one. Many is always smarter than one. So in the important decisions that you're making, the things that you're trying to do, are you connecting with many, not just one? You. So what am I saying? Bottom line here, we make money by giving. not taking. Therefore, you have to give until it hurts and then give until it feels good. You cannot get out of life that which you have not put into life. If you have nothing, it's because you've given nothing. You don't believe me? Go to a bank and try to take something out of that bank you ain't put in. Let's see what happens to you. It's the same thing with life. Now, I'm here to assure you that money alone does not make you happy. And we read endless stories about rich people who are just crazy, right? You know what the secret of being happy about money? It's how you earn it and how you share it. I have won large sums of money, just God luck. I was not nearly as happy as earning it and then sharing it. So there's a deal with God, in case you didn't know, but probably you do. It's a very simple deal. God makes a deal. The deal with God is 90-10. All that God puts into you, pours into you, assists you, 90% of that you keep, 10% you must give away. Now, he doesn't care who you give it. You could give it to your church, you could, whatever. But 10% you give, it must be given away. And as I said before, and I want to reinforce it, if you have nothing, it's because you've given nothing. Now, God prefers equity versus debt. You do know that, right? The nature of money is debt, though, converted to equity. So you go into debt to buy a home. Most of us do. You pay off that home over time, and you now have what? What God wants, equity. You pay for a college degree, or somebody paid for a college degree. A lot of money was invested. You went it, somebody went into debt. But you then convert that additional education into equity. There's no excuse today, brothers and sisters, with issues of connectivity. There are unlimited ways to get and stay connected. We know that connectivity produces growth. We learned that from the radio, television when it came around, the phone, the internet, and this love-hate relationship we have with social media. So there are all kinds of ways to do this. I'm begging you, work on your relationships. If you are not succeeding in life and or business, check yourself before you wreck yourself. You can point it right back to your relationships. You've either done some stinking thinking on that and you've surrounded yourself with assholes, or you've done some really wise and smart thinking. You understand the power of proximity, which is surrounding yourself with people that make you better. And if they don't make you better, bless them and release them. And the biggest decision you will make in your life is your life partner. That person you decide when you take those vows, and that's a hell of a vow now. I mean, you think about that vow, till death do us part. Now, are you serious or are you just full of shit? Do you really mean that? And you really said that to somebody? And you was just around? Oh, you deserve your behind kicked. Do that 2 or 3 times and see what your life looks like. Now, I can say that with fervor because I've been married to the same sister for 50 years. That's an old bio doc Karen read. 50 years. And by the way, I'm gonna brag a little bit. I don't have just one Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Last October, I got the second one from President Joe Biden. Now, I may be the only Negro on earth with 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards. I find that very curious because I don't feel that I've lived 2 lifetimes, but I'll take it. Not bragging, really, just saying. So, your partner will either make you or break you. They're endless stories. I don't even have to talk about it. Do it one time if humanly possible, but no more than twice. Yes, oftentimes, many of our people, we get married when we don't know anything. And we make stupid decisions because we really don't understand the human spirit and the human character. And so we make a bad decision. That's okay. You can recover from that, but don't do that twice or 3 or 4 times. Now, I'm close to my time, and I know Karen, I'm praying that she will give me a little bit more time. Um, a couple of closing thoughts. My life ain't been no crystal staircase, as Maya would say. Orphan, foster care, all of my life. No one thought I was college material, so I went to a vocational high school, got a diploma in carpentry. I couldn't get a job in carpentry in Brooklyn, New York at the time because the Italians controlled the carpentry union, and I couldn't get in. So my first real job was a quasi-government job for the Port Authority of New York, who controlled all the airports in New York. So my first real job was mopping floors on the midnight shift at LaGuardia Airport. Yeah, oh yeah, loved that job. Go to LaGuardia Airport today. Go down into the maintenance department. There's a picture of me on the wall. I was the best floor mopper in the history of LaGuardia Airport. What does that mean, Dr. Fraser? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. How you do anything is how you do everything. You know how I start out my day? Every day, making up my bed. It's perfect. I wasn't even in the military. I make it up like it's a military bed. It's a function of habit. It gets me started. I feel discombobulated if I do not make up my bed. It's a mindset. Your future is not determined by things that happen to you. They're really determined by habits, good habits and bad habits. The point here is that there will be obstacles. If it was easy, why would God need you? There's a purpose for obstacles. I eat obstacles as vitamins. I love obstacles. My favorite quote outside of the Bible is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was one of the 5 great Caesars. There were 40 Caesars. He was one of the 5 great Caesars. And he was one of the founders of the Stoic philosophy. I'm a Stoic. I hope you have a philosophy. In fact, that's an interesting question to ask. What is your philosophy? Do you study any philosophy? Do you have a philosophy? Are there any guardrails on what you would do, would say, and wouldn't do? What is your philosophy? Is the philosophy of Jesus Christ? That's biblical. Is it some sort of classical philosophy? In my case, it's Stoicism, but I read a lot of the Bible. And do you even understand what African-centered philosophy is versus Eurocentric? Do you realize that Black people think entirely different than white people? Do you happen to know what that is? Do you know how they really think? Why wouldn't you? Why shouldn't you know how they think? It is diametrically opposed to how we think. And for you to understand that at a deep philosophical level prepares you for dealing with them, because you're going to have to deal with them. And you need to understand how they think. So, bottom line, there will be obstacles. Marcus Aurelius, my favorite quote outside of the Bible. Here's what he said. Write this down if you can write fast enough. He said that the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. That's heavy duty now. I'll repeat it. The impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. Let me say it differently. You'll understand this one. The obstacle is the way. Where there is no obstacle, there is no way. What is the first thing God does when he gives you an assignment that he feels that you're prepared for? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under that obstacle, to stumble, fall, fail, and learn the lessons from those obstacles. I've told people many times, I have failed my way to success because I've learned the lessons from the obstacles I have to overcome. So when you overcome the obstacle that God puts in your way, you get an atta girl or an atta boy, and then you get your next assignment at a slightly higher level. And then what's the next thing God does? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under the obstacle. And when you look back over your entire life, that's your life, overcoming obstacles. And working so that you can earn. Therefore, you must improve. What a system. I mean, this is a genius system. One final thought. Every time I say that phrase, it makes me think. I love obstacles. I really do. It makes me wiser and stronger. I love reading because it helps me. I love reading biographies, in particular of great people. You should read books of great people and see how they overcame their obstacles. Because we all have these stories. One final study, you may have heard me, I've said this for several years. You may have heard me say it, but it bears repeating. The New England Journal of Medicine, the first medical journal in the United States, considered to be the finest medical journal in the entire world, 3 years ago did a longitudinal study, which meant massive, on the 3 most productive periods of your life. 3 most productive periods of your life. The number 3 most productive period of your life is between 50 and 60. The number 2 most productive period of your life is between 70 and 80. I'm 77. And the number 1 most productive period of your life is between 60 at 70. The average age of a Nobel Prize winner is 62. The average age of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company is 63. The average age of the pastors of the 100 largest churches in America is 71. Moses was 80 when he got his assignment from God. The average age of a pope is 76. Mandela became president of South Africa at 76. Gandhi secured India's independence at 61. Ray Kroc founded McDonald's at 59. Toni Morrison won the Pulitzer at 57, and then the Nobel at 62. And Frank Lloyd Wright, the iconic architect, considered to be the greatest architect to have ever lived, who built the Guggenheim Museum on 54th Street and Fifth Avenue in New York City. I watched it being built when running the streets of New York back in the day. He completed his magnum opus, the finest piece of work of his life, at 91. Now, what does that mean, Dr. Fraser? It means that this tells us that somehow God has designed that the best years of your life are between 50 and 80. So if you're 0 to 49, you ain't done shit yet. You just learning. You just getting started. Now, you may have done some shit, and it's nice, but it does not compare to the stuff you're going to do for the balance of your life. You are preparing. You're learning. You're failing. You're stumbling. You'll extract lessons from that. You will gain wisdom and experience, and then you'll knock it out of the park. And I'll quote one more time what I said earlier, because it bears repeating. Die with memories, not dreams. Do the damn thing. Stop dreaming about it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.